Welcome, everybody. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to change the world one brave word at a time. I'm a book publisher, and it's my greatest honor to publish world-changing wellness books that honor the business success of my authors as much as the healing journey of the reader. You guys are going to find our books have an awareness and energy that inspires your biggest, juiciest, best possible life. I'm so happy you guys are here today. I have a special treat for you today. Some of the co-authors of a new book by lead author Amy Gillespie Doherty called The Ancestors Within, Reveal and Heal the Ancient Memories You Carry, are here with me to talk about ancestral healing. Y'all, reading this book took me to another level of possibility when it comes to healing. I'm so excited to be introducing you to some of the amazing authors and master teachers stepping up in this book. So today, please help me welcome Crystal Rasmussen, Lisa Newton, Joni Ann Jeanette, and Tanya Colucci to the show. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Good morning. So Crystal Rasmussen, a professionally trained and certified generational healing teacher and spiritual guide, supports you in releasing pain and suffering from your ancient bloodlines stored within your genetic lineage to heal you today. Lisa A. Newton is a lifelong educator, empath, and metaphysical jewelry maker. Joni Ann Jeanette, a subtle energy healing massage therapist who loves to find joy from the mundane realm to the mystical, is here with us. And Tanya Colucci is an expert shaman, healer, author, and coach, passionate about inspiring you to live from your heart. Oh my gosh, you guys, I hope you feel the power that is in these women and authors and experts. Crystal, you are up first. Talk to us about this beautiful chapter that you wrote.
Oh, Laura, thank you for having us today. I'm so excited. So I actually wrote a chapter about connecting and building a relationship with your ancestors and how healing your generational trauma can really help you utilize and see how well your ancestors want to support you. And so it's really about learning how to trust them and listen to them and heal the pain and suffering that not only has been in your own life, but within your family's life as well.
Do you remember the first time you realized this was even a possibility?
Oh, wow. So, my ancestors have been speaking to me my entire life. Not that I listened to them my entire life. The first time I realized it was a possibility was at my own certification training to become a generational healer and witnessing the possibilities of what's possible. I mean, what can happen when we heal our ancestors can happen for us and the earth.
So you told me that you've known it all your life. So like, I'm wondering about your childhood experiences. Like, can you look back and tell us like, oh yeah, this was happening. Like I can tell that to you now because I can look in retrospect, right?
Yeah. And so actually I go into it in my chapter about my experience with my grandmother and how she came to visit me, how she helped me get through a really rough day. And then also how the generational trauma came in and impacted me and my connection to the ancestors, and how that pulled me away, feeling like that connection was wrong. And so, but having them still in the background all the time was so supportive for me in so many ways.
So talk to me a little bit more about the tool that you're teaching us in your chapter.
The tool that I'm teaching in the chapter really allows you, teaches you, guides you to drop in to your own body, into this deeper space, and allows you to have a conversation with your ancestors, to bring them forward and see what they want to share with you, see how they want to guide you, what to heal in their life, your life.
Oh, you guys, I have to say thank you to all of you for just, saying yes to this project, but also y'all, you work with people every day. You're master teachers. You can teach people. You talk to them about what to do. You tell them the path to follow in terms of connecting. You guys are going to hear the word connect a lot in these interviews because all of our authors are teaching you in one way or another how to connect and what happens when you connect. But thank you for saying yes to the challenge of putting that in writing because it's not easy. I know that. And what I want the listeners to realize is when you're finished with a chapter, you have a practical tool in your hands. And these authors, definitely that's a challenge to put it in black and white in a way that you can have a practical experience without you sitting there with them, which is their norm, right? It's easier for them to do that. So thank you all for doing that. Lisa, talk to me about this beautiful chapter that you wrote.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I wrote chapter 6. It's called Hearing My Grandmother. And like Crystal, one of my grandmothers has become part of my spiritual journey, which she was not very big part of my physical life journey. But the story is entitled How to Use Affirmations to Bridge Communication with Your Ancestors. And my story is about 4 generations of women in my family and how we are intertwined in trauma and healing. And we do that through communication in our meditation and our journeying and just what we put forth in our life.
Affirmations are an amazing tool. I remember in the beginning of my journey, I was like, oh, affirmations, this feels so corny. And I don't know, it doesn't feel right when I say it, but I have jumped all the way over to this other area over here where I'm going to tell everyone they're magical. So talk to me more about that tool. Tell us about the affirmations, how that played out in your world.
Well, affirmations, I like to define that in several ways because I think it bridges people's spiritual beliefs if you use the word affirmation. So affirmations is putting out positive energy, positive intentions, and even very intentional goals. But also I like to talk to you about it as the power of prayer. So a lot of religion, conventional religion or whatever, spiritual journey, there's this moment in which you feel a prayer, you feel the power of group. And that's what I'm talking about, affirmations. So that's my definition of affirmations. And I use that in my rituals, in my journey. As I study more and more, it's just become a way for me to guide my journeys.
I hear a lot of people talk about the power of prayer, and sometimes our words will either turn people on or off depending on what their conditioning is. So I love to have so many different ways to understand the tools, first of all, and how we call that, what we label it sometimes is important. But understanding the power behind the practice really is where it's at for me. And you just touched on it a second ago. You said the power of the group in terms of prayer or affirmation. Can you talk about that for another minute?
I talk about a little bit in my story. It's embedded as an example. I'm talking about my grandmothers, and I have 3. I talk about my mother, my relationship, and my daughters. And we have an interesting story, several twists, but basically we're a series of women who have been brought into each other's lives on our spiritual journey, but we are not always genetically related through our DNA journey. And so I talk about how the power that my grandmother Blanche in the story came to me to help me in a time where I was, and I didn't even know I was before I really became aware and accepted my gifts, and everyone has gifts, but she came to me, and then she has been with me through my tool. She actually gave me my tool. I can explain. So I meditate, and then recently I've been studying shamanism, and I'm just in beginning that role. So I've really loved reading these chapters of people who are actually masters. And in my journey, my grandmother came to me and said that she wished to work with me using rocks, crystals, specifically rose quartz. And I went, what? What is this? And so that sent me on a journey to really understand metaphysical stones. And there's two paths with that. But I use them to help me communicate when I meditate. And that was my tool that I gave in the book, my morning meditation ritual, which involves a meditation chant. And I use that as an affirmation every single day of my life since it was given to me, to set my day and my family and everything correct in my home, my house. And I give that to people and go through that meditation. But I've learned to use the rocks to help me, because when I meditate or when I journey especially, I'm not communicating like we're communicating now. And sometimes my intentional message that I'm trying to put out there is lost. So I grid it in front of me. Or people have altars and they put it there. And I use my rocks as their meaning to help me keep my message there, or I wear them. And so that's the tool that I decided to bring to the readers to share. Try this with your meditation, intentionally put your words out there so they're there for you. And then you can receive too.
Thank you for sharing. One of the things I love the most is when you guys give me examples of how you're doing the tool in your own personal life. Because if you lined up 100 people and you gave them a crystal tool, those 100 people would have 100 different ways of customizing the tool for themselves in the way that works for them. So thank you for sharing how you do it with your grid and your altar and all of these things. I think some of these ideas are really new to people, and I love that we're sharing and opening people's minds with it all, right? Joni Ann, tell me about your chapter.
Okay, so chapter 24 is connecting through your heart space. And the tool that I offer utilizes your breath as the transportation into the heart space. And the significance of that, you've seen tons of things about breath. In this particular case, the significance of the breath is that it is truly our life link, our spirit link. And one of the things that you'll experience through the tool is witnessing an ancestor who had a lifetime full of situations that had disempowerment. And what the breath does is it acknowledges you first. And that's so significant, because in our journeys and in our desires to be loved and to receive love and to give love, oftentimes, at least in my journey, oftentimes we've lost that sense of self. And in so many different ways, we're spoken to in terms of healing about community and universal. Yet there's this power that we have to understand of our significance and our contribution to that whole. So you were talking earlier about like, how can this tool show up in our lives? And that was what really tickled me about this book, is it is actually more of a universal tool, though it's very specific for the application here. When you want to utilize it to connect with ancestors, if there's any kind of things going on in your life that you want to resolve or improve or, balance or settle, this tool can assist you with that. And then yet, if there's anything else that you want to aspire to, this tool will assist with that. So, like I said, in my chapter, you get to meet my grandfather. What's been so incredible to encourage you to try the tool is that the amount of healing that has taken place just since we wrote the chapters. And this circle, my grandpa's over on the other side as a cheerleader, which most of them are. And like just the things that have unfolded for my family above and beyond what had already taken place with connecting with grandpa has just been incredible. And I just wanted to thank you all.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you all for,
give us a little taste of that? What's an example of something that has happened since we created this?
Yes. So the most significant thing has been at least 3 family members have stepped forward and connected with me after not having seen or talked to them in years. And like, for example, a first cousin, he's come and is really seeking to understand his own sensitivity and his own huge heart. But he's in all of these different, what came through from Grandpa was, he's experiencing something called, what is it? They told me, I'm so sorry. He's experiencing something called trauma bonding, which I had to learn a little bit more about, and so I could help him. But we've started, disintegrating the connection of punishment attached to love. And so you'll see in my tool that like that was my heart-based question, was like, why is there so much pain and suffering in my family? And so you witness how our ancestors can experience this connection to pain and suffering and the desire to heal. And then you see it travel through the generations, but it takes the individual willingness through the heart to acknowledge it and to open it up and then allow for it to be, in order for it to be transmuted or the perception shifted.
Feels like a small miracle to me.
Oh my gosh, right.
I want listeners to understand that we're talking about, maybe little happenings here and there, but this feels like big potatoes to me, like world changing kind of stuff. And again, just I feel like you guys all deserve so much gratitude for stepping up into your real vulnerable stories that you're sharing in the book. Thank you for helping us understand and trust you, and really trust you to continue us on to where you guide us in a way to connect, right? Tanya, talk to me about your beautiful chapter.
My chapter is chapter 11, Shamanic Journey, and using the tool of going on shamanic journeys internally in order to heal patterns that keep repeating themselves, not only with our families, but with ourselves. And so learning how to do shamanism and be a healer and using those tools, Shamanic Journey has been a powerful tool for my journey, because it allows the individual to go on a journey internally in order to seek answers, to make contacts with our guides, our ancestors, in order to help heal ourselves now in this moment, but also to seek information and guidance.
So I remember reading your chapter, and I resonated with you and your story and everything you were doing for so many reasons. I think there was something about Italians in there, and that kind of cracked me up. But the one thing that I wanted to ask you about, so you have to set me straight if I'm remembering it incorrectly, but you were helping us journey downward, right? And I was like reading that, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, we're going to hell. What is she doing with us here? Like, where are we going? Like, we're going down. And so like all of my conditioned thoughts about what down meant were popping up. And I just want to hear from you, like, how did reframe that for us?
Right. I think traditionally, like, even me being raised, in the Roman Catholic religion, we're taught about heaven, hell, purgatory, all these things. But it's kind of ironic because in shamanism, this is an indigenous practices that actually we're all shamans. We're all born with this. And all that it means is that we travel to non-ordinary reality to seek guidance and answers. So we close our eyes and we go internally out of this 3D world to things that are unseen. And so in shamanism, you travel to the lower world or to the upper world to meet with your guide. So the lower world meaning that you're just using the intention of going down into the earth. So that sensation of going down in order to meet with the guides in what's called the lower world, which is just typically where we go in order to meet our power animals, our guides, past lives, and make connection there. We typically travel to the upper worlds to meet with guides to receive healing or to power ourselves up to sort of transmute more of the higher consciousness energy through us. And ironically, in shamanism, the middle world is actually our current reality now in terms of the unseen. And typically that's a more challenging area to do shamanic journey into. And that's where souls that are kind of attached to still being here are stuck. And so as a shaman, I've learned how to journey to help the system up to the higher realms of the ascension process, I guess you could say, like their soul journeying up. But I know it's hard to get out of that thinking of the heaven and hell thing. But
well, I love hearing you talk about it because it does help to hear somebody describe what they're thinking about, and you're teaching us just another way to think about it, which is really, really important. If this book doesn't do anything else, it gives people perspectives that they never knew were even possible, right? So yeah. Lisa, were you waving at me to add something?
I did. I wanted to tell
Okay.
Tanya that her chapter is so well described, because I talked to my family. I'm like, oh yeah, I journey, and they're like, what? And so, and when I read that, I'm like, here, read this. This is the process I do when I meditate, and when I, you can call it many different things, but and so I really loved your chapter for that description.
right.
It helped bridge some communication in my family, who are like, what's happening? Because like the other speakers, the energy is changing in the world, and I came up with it, and here I am. And so I'm so grateful for this book, and even though I'm an author in the book, I'm like reading for all these tools, going, this is so cool. It's like going to a convention, but just so intimate.
And just initiating the kinds of conversations that we need to have to break people's minds open. And so Tanya, I'm gonna stay with you for this next question that I'm coming around to all of you with, okay? And I think I love this the most out of everything, because I love understanding what else is possible in terms of healing. It's what gives you hope. If you're one of those people who's been to 10 practitioners, or thinking about traditional medicine for a second, I won't go there for too long, but just temporary relief and not getting anywhere, and then losing your hope, right? So I love to understand what's possible. So Tanya, talk to me about something you realized was possible in terms of healing when it came to this ancestral journey.
I would say for me personally in my own journey is that patterns that keep repeating themselves or limiting negative beliefs that I might have around certain topics. Like, let's say, like, I'm not worthy of receiving abundance, whether it's in the form of financial abundance or love, that belief doesn't really resonate with me at my heart level, but it's something that subconsciously is ingrained in my energy field. And so I know it's an ancestral, generational, from having immigrant grandparents and whatnot, and me really being the first generation to actually go to college, in my family, honestly. And so for me, it's doing, whether it's a meditation or traveling to meet my ancestors, to do healing on those levels, to shift those subconscious beliefs within myself, to realize that's not really me at a heart and soul level. And I'm really here to break those patterns so that my son and the future generations don't have those same limiting beliefs holding them back from, achieving whatever it is that they want to achieve and receive, without limitations.
Yes. And I think so, repeating patterns, cyclical patterns of really, they're negative. They're not so great patterns. They're patterns you're catching yourself in, and recognizing, we're in past generations or whatever. That theme has come up in almost everybody's chapter, in almost all of our conversations, because when I think the miracle is when you say, I'm going to be the one to break this, right? And I consider you all warriors, because you're trailblazing this. You are saying, I'm going to be the one, I'm going to do the work, I'm going to do something different to break this pattern. And that's going to ripple out in all directions, right? I love this in terms of what's possible here. And you mentioned I was going to say the abundance pattern, but really it's a lack of abundance pattern. Yeah. Tanya, talk to me more about that.
You mean in terms of me personally? Or?
Yeah.
It's, even though like consciously I've never had to worry about money, like, and my business is always, it's always in a thriving mode, there still is this like nagging pattern in the back, like, this gripping and holding on, like I'm never going to have enough. And in reality, that's not true, right? And so that's how I know it's not in resonance with what's really happening in reality. So it's almost like a rewiring that has to happen. And so in the moment, as I'm receiving that abundance, whether it's my business thriving or finding a partner that's giving me all this love, being able to be in a vulnerable position and really allow myself to fully receive everything that I'm being given, because I find that when I allow myself to get in that negative pattern, I'm not in a grateful, receiving, loving mode. And that's actually going to prevent me from receiving more love and more abundance in whatever way it looks like. And so it's that constant stopping and being present and kind of taking it in. And then slowly over time, that starts to fade away, that lack of, having enough or being worthy of receiving the love and the overflowing of abundance in all forms.
Yes, with an exclamation point, yes. And I think a lot of listeners are going to resonate with that idea. And that's what I want you all to understand, I feel like in myself, it's this consistent low level of anxiety about abundance. And I have to catch myself in that and just be like, whoa, you have nothing to worry about, and open up to the receiving energy. It's going to help you live more free in terms, I feel it around my heart all the time, right? So just expand that heart. I think Joni Ann was the one talking about the heart space. So Joni Ann, let's move to you with that same question. What did you realize was possible when you started to dabble with this ancestral healing?
I want to say the most profound awareness that like you were talking about earlier, the most profound awareness is that, how do I explain this? Let me frame this up really quick, because I'm like just in the flow of the comprehension of these different expressions, right? So the profound awareness is that no matter how things are presented to you, you have the ability to perceive it's like a benefits cost list. So every single situation that has come in, like Tanya was saying, with recognizing this as a recurring pattern, when a person is given like these external structures of belief systems from other people's experiences, and then we embody them, because that's our nature, is to externalize it instantly upon coming out into this world. So we embody these as truth. And so then what ends up happening is we start to develop our system of activity, like seeking our financial support based on this as a truth. And then what ends up happening is that truth has like varying degrees, and something could be true for another, but not necessarily true for you. And it really does take that willingness to surrender your perception and then dive deeper into the connections that those truths have foundationalized in your life. And I know that I'm kind of going off topic, because the thing that's so fascinating about being willing to surrender is that you open yourself up to rediscovering yourself. And what's so interesting is that I think one of the hardest things to accept is ambiguity. And that, right? And then when we're in that state of ambiguity and allowing for it, that's when we can recognize, oh, wait a minute, that pattern had benefits and costs. So it's like the fundamental benefit is, how did it keep our ancestors, how did it keep ourselves safe? How did it keep ourselves out of shame and guilt and blame? And then how did it help us develop our gifts? How did it allow us? And then what did that cost us to do that? And do we still want to use that particular system or belief or perception to get that need met? So
powerful questions. I was writing one down as you were talking, and I morphed it into, are you willing to surrender your perception for a greater truth?
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
yeah, I'll quote you later on that one. And that's a big question. I get turned on by the big questions of life. I think that is what can open you up to the possibilities that we're talking about. It's amazing. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Lisa, how
Yes.
about you? What was something you realized was possible when you started to dabble with ancestral healing?
When I started dabbling with it was just recently, in the past, well, I guess 10, 15 years. I call that recently because life is so long. But I realized that ancestral trauma and ancestral healing are intertwined. And that the power of using journeying and meditation and even doing a deep dive into DNA allows you to first to recognize that there's a pattern of ancestral trauma that needs healing, and you're connected in that fiber of doing that, whether like I said, it's through a DNA, through a history, or just through life's journey as adopted people have come in my case, we have a maternal pattern that needed to end, and it was a maternal pattern of child abandonment for self versus mother being the best of herself and to support the child and be the best for the child. So that had to heal, and I am part of that with my ancestors, and we're intertwined with that. And I learned that's powerful, and you have to have an open mind to it. And growing up the way I did, I had a lot of doctrine built into me. And as I explored my life as I got older and started looking around, I held different truths. I redefined things. I explored, I opened myself, and I found peace, and I found joy, and I found love. And from becoming a mom myself and the choices I did, and then going up and healing all the way through. And the only way you can connect with your ancestors who are no longer on this plane of life is through the spirit journey. And so that's what I hope that people get through my story, is that yes, this healing can happen and you're not alone. The cause and the cure are intertwined.
Yes, love it. Thank you. Oh my goodness. I hope those who are listening really are feeling the power, right? I'm imagining that you guys are having some goosebump moments listening to these authors because of the possibilities that they're expressing here. Crystal, same question. What's something you realized was possible when you started to really get into this and understand it?
I realized anything is possible when I get through the work I've done. It never fails to amaze me the changes that can occur for the person, for the the healing that happens for the ancestor, and for the family, the lineage itself. I remember as I was going through my own personal certification training, my 15-year-old son looked at me and thanked me for the work I was doing.
Wow.
It was powerful. I can see it coming from my daughter. However, a teenage boy is a little different. But when we really work with our ancestors and we heal the pain and the trauma that they've experienced, that we're carrying, it's affecting us. And when we can do that, there's so much that can shift and change for us within our own relationships, within our family. You know, I've really watched how in my own personal family dynamics, how things have changed, how depression has lifted, you know, less anxiety, less grief, freedom, just so much more freedom to really be who you are and express who you are in the world, which is powerful.
Those are such perfect and wonderful examples, palpable to most people, where they recognize the fear and the anxiety and all of those things you're talking about in their family, in each other, looking for ways to feel free from that. And I love that, even just that simple idea that those kinds of things can be eased and relieved, and we can shift into joy and love and gratitude as a replacement a little more of the time than all of that other stuff that seems to be there, so often. Thank you. All right, I have another question for all of you, a little bit more about awareness. Essentially, you're all teaching awareness tools. You're all teaching levels and forms of awareness. And I think, it sounds kind of corny to say awareness is important. It's foundational, really, I think, to this life. If we want a juicy, full, vibrant life, we have to have a practice of awareness that is going to serve us. Joni Ann, I'm going to start with you for this one. Talk to me about awareness in terms of your own personal journey. Give us a little window into what you've experienced.
So it's kind of funny because I would have to say that I think that's been my foundation, literally been my foundation, is that constant awareness and how we go through these stages of how should I say it? We end up going through these stages in developing the sense of ourself. And as I was saying earlier, we come into the world and we're instantly externalized. So there's a certain type of awareness, right? We're working on trying to understand how to navigate the physical world. And so then, from there, you could do it in chunks. And if you just take a moment and timeline yourself, you're like, okay, who was I from 0 to 10? Who was I from 10 to 20? And then for me, I have to say that it's that hyper awareness that there's things that are so invisible that are so clear to me. And then as I would speak to them, this is where like some of the interesting dynamics would take place, because stuff that would come out of my mouth, the adults around me or even friends, they would kind of give you this look like, we don't talk about that. or better, what are you talking about? And so then you're stuck in the state of, I don't know, what did I say? And so moving forward in life and just continuing that application and just trying to understand the connections that I was seeking in what really came down to being able to relate to each other. And so awareness really to me is a heart-based experience. It's like this, it's where your heart is awake, and every action that you take or every decision that you make is ideally based in a state of love. And I don't know about you guys, but it's so funny. It's like I speak to this so often that sometimes I'm asking Spirit, can you just give me a different word? Because I almost feel a little cheesy, like, let's talk about love. And you're like, let's not, I'm really mad. Or, and so it's like, but in awareness, we get to be mad. We get to be exhausted. We get to be all these different, judgments, but they're not really judgments. They're just states of awareness. So, yeah, I hope to bring that to others. One of the things that was rolling through as you guys were talking that I wanted to share a little bit, something that has come up so frequently, and that is that I get to do this. You were talking about somebody in the family always signs up to do this. And it takes a lot of courage to be that person, because we take the brunt of things, but we're really doing it so that we can share our awareness of how yummy this life really is. And so I get to do this, and you guys, I love that you stepped up into what you get to do. And I want to encourage others to get to do their lives too. Yeah.
I love that. I'll have to give my friend Ted some kudos for writing a book last year or the year before called Get to Be Happy. And yeah, so you guys have to look that one up. Okay. Thank you, Joni Ann. Tanya, you're next on this question. Talk to me about awareness in terms of your personal journey. What's that looked like?
So for me, it's always been through my physical body. I've been so attached to my physical body my whole life as an athlete, and then as a personal trainer, and then as a body worker. And what's really catapulted my journey is pain in my body. And so that's what I hope clients that come to me with chronic pain issues is really, it's not your back that's the issue. It's getting to the real true root of what's causing the physical sensations in our body. And a lot of that is our subconscious belief patterns, or not living from our heart space is something that I, talk with clients a lot about too, is if we're not living in accordance to what resonates with us, then it's going to create all this subconscious and external stress, which then of course causes our body to tense up and tighten up. And so it's using the body as a roadmap to our soul and to our heart to tap into what it is that we need to shift. And so that's how I use awareness in my day-to-day life, and then with my clients too.
Oh man, this topic, and this is something that you and I have in common, along with the Italian ancestors, the Catholic Church. I could say at least two more things in Tanya's chapter. I'm like, oh yeah, me. Oh yeah, me too. Okay, that was pretty funny. I think we must have grown up in the same life, but this body awareness for me, just if I was going to answer this on my own personal journey, it's been for me too. And I've had to really learn the language through my body, but realize that if I didn't integrate, which is part of what you're talking about, I think, that there was going to be a missing piece, right?
Right.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say about that?
Well, I think, going back to what she was saying earlier about living from a heart space, is that if we want to pull religion into it, it is this lack of, like, without separation. I mean, going into our sacred space of our heart, and that in essence is a shamanic journey. Like when we go into prayer meditation, we're really supposed to be going into that sacred space of our heart, which leads us to our soul. And that's what leads us to living from our heart space and from love. And so it's bringing all these tools together and taking away the boxes that they're in and just coming into our sacred space of our heart, Yes,
nice. And that's a lovely way to think about that. Joni Ann just said, awareness means your heart is awake. I love that. Crystal, how about you? Talk to me about your personal journey in terms of awareness.
Oh, wow.
And it's a big question, right?
It is a really big question. I think so much of the time that we just focus on what we're supposed to do and how everything is supposed to look. And so journeying into awareness really, for me, brought forth so many things that have been hidden, both within the family, but also, things I didn't really want to look at. It was uncomfortable. It was painful. And so really opening yourself up to being aware and willing to be with the truth of what is can be life-changing. And so throughout the years of doing this work, it's really, I remember when I first connected with an ancestor in the way that I personally work, I was in multidimensional framework and the ancestor was sharing with me, and it brought me such a new perspective of the world and how different dimensions exist together, and how that pain of the ancestors does affect our lives. And so, really being willing to see and be with the truth and opening your heart, like Joni Ann speaks to, it's some big stuff.
It is big stuff. Awareness is everything. Awareness gives us a choice. And that's why I love the topic so much. I think I'm going to have to write an entire book about this topic. I mean, essentially that's what we're doing anyway. It's just this is a piece, right? A piece of the puzzle. Lisa, how about you? Talk to me about your personal awareness journey, your practice. What's that meant for you?
my personal awareness journey, I think it happens for everyone. And in my chapter, I give the reader a challenge. That's the teacher in me. And that challenge is I think coming from my ancestors saying, let the children have their gifts. I believe that everyone is born with the ability, everyone is, I just 100%, as is born with the ability to do so much more with their brain. And they, maybe this sounds strange and people say, oh, meditation is just for this, and what's journeying, it's on a ship. Oh yeah, in this plane. But letting children grow and not taking that away by saying no to them. So my awareness was that all my life I've had these skills and abilities. My gut wasn't just my gut telling me something. This whole time I have my ancestors and spirit guides behind me, supporting me in my journey and my learning and everything I'm supposed to accomplish in life, and my spirit goals, and in this interaction, and letting children be okay with that, not taking that from them. Let them have their joy and their learning and their experience. Don't, I want the readers and the people of this podcast listening to look at their kids and recognize how wonderfully gifted they are, and promote that, and then do it within yourself, because the healing is tremendous. And that awareness is what I walk away with in writing this chapter. I'm like, it's been wonderfully healing, and I feel that I'm not alone. I never was.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Oh, that's another one I could talk about all day long in terms of kids and how we're working with our own children with that awareness. I see it in both of my kids, and I just smile every time, and I see a little spark of their wisdom and amazingness. So I need y'all to help me do a little speedy version of this last question. Okay, we'll have to do the speed dating version here of this one. We're going to wrap it up in the next couple of minutes. Lisa, I'm going to stick with you for the last one. So I think that one of my jobs as a healer, healthcare person that wants to help other people is to take exceptional care of myself so that I can serve from an overflow. And so what I thought we would do for the listeners is just share one powerful self-care tool that you use and why you love it so much. So just one, not 10. I know there's every one of you has a list of like 100 things that you're going to want to tell the listeners. But Lisa, if you had to pick one, what would it be?
I would tell the listeners that my one tool I do that has made a huge difference in my life is the one I included in my chapter. I do my morning ritual meditation without fail, so that I know that I am at peace, I'm connected, I am grounded, and I start my day in peace, love, and joy. I think everyone should have a routine like that.
Perfect. Thank you. Crystal, how about you?
Oh, hands down, the number one thing would be getting out in nature. It really helps reset, and you can see the beauty within everything and the life, and just feel grounded and present.
Yes, I'm with you on that one big time. It's an instant recharge for me, and it's also an instant connection to my poetry, my words, my muse. It just helps me channel what is meant to be channeled. Awesome, Crystal. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tanya, how about you?
I love sun gazing in the morning. So the sun comes up on my back screen and porch. And so I sit there, and like Lisa, I do a heart-based meditation where I connect to my heart, and I visualize that golden sunlight illuminating from my heart out me into a big golden ball and burning away any of the shit that's there that needs to be removed before I start my day of healing. So
love that one. There's something special in the sunrise. There really is. So beautiful. Okay, Joni Ann, last but not least, what is yours?
I'd have to say the most fundamental one is giving yourself permission to be.
I like that one. It's a good one. We need to do that. Oh, for sure. Y'all, thank you so much for what you're doing in the world and for being here today to share it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was a
Thank you
blast.
so much.
And all your beloveds here, thank you for coming together and holding sacred space. It's incredible, and the power of it, the power of this love, it just emanates throughout the world, and I just sense it even when we're not face to face. And so I just want to thank you.
Yes. Thank you all so much. You guys, the Ancestors Within launches into the world on May 4th. So be sure to join us at 10 a.m. Eastern for our live stream book launch party on the 4th. In the Brave Badass Healers Facebook page, I'm going to have some information down below for you on that. Plus, all of these authors' websites are hooked up down there as well. Please go explore, take it another step with them, learn more about them and what they're up to in the world. So on the 4th, we're going to be having some fun giveaways, and all of our authors are going to be there to share their expertise and wisdom. And if you're listening to this after the 4th of May, that means you need to get your butt over to Amazon and grab a copy of this amazing book, okay, which is when it will be available. But the other amazing thing that Amy Gillespie Doherty is set up for you all who are interested in this topic is a special group on Facebook called the Ancestors Within Community. You're going to be able to pop in there and rub elbows with these experts, ask them questions, again, explore their worlds, take the next step. Questions about the chapters, about this subject. Really, it's an incredible benefit, you guys. So the link is down below for that as well. And until next time, what if the thing you're still a little afraid to share is exactly the thing someone needs to hear to change or even save their life? It is time to be brave. Explore all the Brave Healer offerings for healers who are ready to share their brave words with the world at bravehealer.com. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.